Mark's call from Sheffield. Hello, Mark.
Hello. When the opposition person was asking and repeated the question, basically word for word, I think you knew there was going to be a gotcha moment. And the fact that David Lammy didn't answer the question, that then throws up, well, did he know? And you just thought that he would have known, being his position. But the fact that the police didn't find out till, 5 days a week later themselves.
Tuesday.
A Tuesday, yeah. It's like a cover-up from the prison service. But then when we look at think about the prison service, releasing prisoners isn't a new thing. We've had prisons for hundreds of years, so there must be processes in place for. I imagine prisoners are going. I've had a 2-year sentence, and they're counting down the days. I'm going to get released next week. And there'll be people on the computers that says, right, this person's getting released next week. And if they got a early release, then you'd imagine, because it's not a new thing, again, they've been doing it, since 2020 or something, even earlier, there would be a process in place where the prisoner probably gets told the day before, pack your stuff up, you'll get released tomorrow. And you actually see, not in the films, you got the prisoner getting released and he gets his packet of cigarettes that have been there for 20 years or something, and he gets his old watch and he's got his old clothes. You'd have thought someone along the line going, actually, how come you're on the list?
Yeah. It seems like a fairly simple thing to get right. I mean, again, that depends on staffing levels. I suppose it depends on how functional the administration of the prison is. But it seems like a fairly simple thing to get right. Is this that man? Shouldn't be that difficult to establish in a prison where you, the prisoner, are in control of everything the person does day and night. It beggars belief, really, that they wouldn't know who they were dealing with. Let me just tell you this and get your reaction to it, Mark. The Prime Minister's spokesman in a statement, or taking questions after Prime Minister's questions, the lobby journalists go in and put questions to the Prime Minister's spokesperson, said the mistaken release of this prisoner so they're speaking for the Prime Minister when they talk at these briefings.
Okay.
The mistaken release is unacceptable. The circumstances behind it would be forensically looked at, was the word they used. They said the case is likely to form part of a review into mistaken releases. Oh, God. Really, Sherlock. However, when asked repeatedly, the spokesman for the Prime Minister was unable to say whether David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, was aware of the prisoner release during Prime Minister's questions. Well, he really should be aware of that by the time he's taking those questions from journalists, so I don't know what that's all about. And the spokesman was also not clear as to whether the Prime Minister knew about the mistaken release, saying the Prime Minister was on a plane on the way to the COP summit in Brazil and would be kept updated. So what do you make of that?
Well, it's like all things. They've got to be wary of what their initial statements are going to be, because like previous slip-ups, shall we say, emails become available and they get released that then suggest that people did know something that they initially say, oh no, we only just found out about this, etc., etc. And that would make the position really more unattainable for David Lammy if he had said, no, I didn't know about it. It then transpired that he did.
David Lammy hasn't said I didn't know.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So they've been cautious in their wording and of the initial statements. And how they release that.
The thing is, though, if I were the Prime Minister's spokesperson, before I went out into that room to speak to however many lobby journalists today, I'd have said, get me a hotline to the Justice Secretary right now. I need to know what he knew and when he knew it. And David Lammy knows what he knew and when he knew it, or didn't know and when he didn't know it. And he should be able to furnish the spokesman with that before they go out and talk nonsense to journalists. It's not difficult, is it?
Release a statement. Yeah.
You can ask me a question, I can give you an answer. It's not difficult.
Yeah, and the fact he was actually skirting around the question and blaming the Conservatives for everything, that then throws up the question: did he know? And he might have been made aware that day or an hour before going in. and not knowing all the details. So that would, again, if he had turned around and said, yes, we know this, this and this, and then the next question would be from everybody else saying, what are the details? And he goes, well, I don't know.
And if he knew and made the judgment, if he knew a couple of days ago, or he found out when the Met found out, and he made the judgment that it would just be filed under Dame Lynn Owen's review, is that bad judgment? Feels that way to me.
Definitely, and something like this should have actually been, I feel something like this should have been released by David Lammy in a press statement, to show basically he's on it. He's got it in hand, but to be released at PMQs, that makes it probably slightly worse.
Do you think he's in danger job-wise?
Well, personally, I think it depends what comes out afterwards and what they say initially, and then what comes out.
Prison governor?
Prison. I think because it was only like 4 or 5 days before that the other prisoner had been released, so you'd have thought they'd batten down the hatches, crossed the T's, dotted the I's to make sure that everybody got it right.
Well, David Lammy said it, didn't he, in the Commons? He said, we've got the most stringent checks there have been since Kebatu. So they didn't work, did they, in Wandsworth? Anne-Marie is called from Reading. Hello, Anne-Marie.
Hi, Sheila. Hi. I completely agree with everything that you're saying about, the whole situation. It's really bad, like people being released from prison accidentally, and whether David Lammy knew or not. Whoever they are. And that's my main point, though, Sheila, is that, why do we always have to turn, I feel lately everything has to come down to immigration. So why couldn't the Minister have asked, has anybody been released, why does it always have to come down to immigrants? Does that mean that our own homegrown criminals are better than foreign criminals?
No, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's how it always sounds like. It's like you're always trying to.
I don't want any dangerous people. I don't want any dangerous people free. Yeah.
And me too. I don't want any dangerous people on the streets. And it is atrocious. And I really feel like the minister in opposition. Sorry, I've forgotten his name. He could have asked the question once. I feel like he clearly knew the answer, in my opinion.
James Cartledge, I had to check it myself there. James Cartledge,
Clearly knew the answer. I think he clearly knew the answer. And I think he could have had his gotcha moment there and then. After he asked it first, he could have said, well, let me tell you your job.
And I say, Anne-Marie, when James Cartledge asked the question, and I think you're right, he did know the answer, do you think he knows the answer is that it is another asylum seeker who is... Yes,
I do. I
mean, that hasn't been confirmed by any means.
No, it hasn't. But or not that it was an asylum seeker, but somebody who's not homegrown. They weren't born here. I believe he knew all those things, Sheila.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right.
He's wasted his opportunity to hold the government to account on other things. This is, Prime Minister's questions. That's what it's meant to be about, holding the government to account. Use them properly.
And I think you're right. And I think the reason I do think if it's an asylum seeker, it has an added layer of both political and social difficulty to the story. But having said that, given that this government's policy, very much announced and trailed ahead by Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, when she was Justice Secretary, she described the state the prisons were in and the numbers and how they had to really bring forward an early release programme and digital jail, digital prison and things like that. If you're releasing people early, that's, in a sense, that's bad enough that the public is having to deal with that, let alone you're releasing the wrong people early.
Yes, completely.
Whoever that
agree.
is.
It's all the wrong people. Whoever they are, it's all wrong. Like I said, I really wish people would start reporting things a little bit more sensibly and remove the words, if it doesn't need to be there, which I don't feel the word immigrant or asylum seeker needs to be in this conversation at the moment. It's about the state of our prisons and how they're running. That's my opinion.
I think it does need to be in it. Shall I tell you why, Anne-Marie? If it is part of the story, I think it does need to be in it because we've just had an asylum seeker jailed, wrongly released and deported. We're at in the middle of the boats crisis and how this government is going to, it tells us, do it better than the last government. No sign that that's happening yet. They've got a new system of one in, one out with France that's had its teething problems, to say the least. The same person that came back has been deported again, so that's problematic for the government politically. That's why I think what is happening to asylum seekers does matter in a number of different contexts, and will be a valid thing to include if it's part of this story. But you're right, at this stage it's an if, although I suspect it is based on what James Cartledge was pushing in the House of Commons, but we'll find out in good time.
It's a shambles, isn't it? Absolute chaos. I actually sat down and watched the Prime Minister question time, and you get fed up to the back teeth when they're asked a question and they defer and they deflect and they know the answer. You could see it written in his face. I knew that somebody was missing. I'm not going to tell you that. It's pathetic, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it was ill-judged. If what's happened is that he knew and he decided just to take cover under the Dame Lynn Owen's investigation, I just think that was a political mistake. I think he should have just said her investigation goes on, but I can confirm that yes, one other prisoner who is an asylum seeker. If it is, we're still waiting for some ifs here, but I suspect he's not waiting for ifs. I think he knows, and I would agree with you. Tell us,
if it's an asylum seeker, right, and he's broken the law, trespass or whatever, but his previous crime was a sexual offence. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, all bets are off. Here's your 50 quid on your aircraft, go home. I'm sorry, we can't carry on. We are being seen as a joke in the world. We are a joke because, you go to that country, you commit a crime, you get put in jail, you get 3 meals a day, and that's it. Job done. It's ridiculous.
It does feel it. If someone goes, who do you think it should be?
Well, the politicians.
Will you tell me?
Yeah, all of them.
Oh dear, it's that bad, is it? Thanks, Jerry. Nadia says, I suppose the government can put as many processes as they like in, but if a prison like Wandsworth doesn't enact them, it's a big problem. Maybe sack the governor of the prison, says Nadia in Hastings. Well, we've still got lots more detail on this to urge, but it's certainly not looking good, is it, for any of them? David in Bayswater. Hi, David.
Hi, Sheila. Great to speak again. So first of all, I want to take issue with you because you linked talking about this, people who've been mistaken released with the boats arriving with asylum seekers. They're totally separate issues. One is to do with the penal system, which is going wrong, and the other is to do with the immigration system. So first of all, that's one point. Secondly, I think we're falling into the trap of being captured by Michael Farage and his racism. This whole thing about the two...
Nigel Farage.
Yeah. Nigel Farage. The two who've been released, who we focused on, happened by coincidence to be also sex offenders. The second one's not even proved an asylum seeker. But when it was first reported, people were assuming it was. And I think a lot of people will now be under the impression he was an asylum seeker when he might not even be so. So that's so irresponsible of the media to do that. And even on your program, you had to roll back on that and say, no, it wasn't. We haven't proved that. But it's so irresponsible to be spreading these kind of things with
which is why we corrected it within seconds. But can I ask you, David? Can I ask you, David? Can I ask you? Well, this is live radio. If you correct it within seconds, there's not much more you can do. Yeah. Can I ask you, David, why you think that the Home Office wouldn't have any questions to answer if any asylum seeker ends up being wrongly released? Do you think you just separate the two departments completely?
Yeah, but just like British prisoners, why aren't we talking about British prisoners?
We have been
guilty of, yes, but I haven't heard names mentioned. And
I haven't given you this man's name either because I don't know it. We don't have it.
No, I'm an immigrant to this country, honestly, and I'm a very objective and analytical person. But I really feel I'm also being put upon. I'm feeling the word immigrant has such a dirty, whatever around it. It has a really bad feeling about it.
And it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, no. And the thing is, these two are a tiny minority of those of the people coming in the boats. And they're both...
If indeed the second one is, we don't know.
They're both being associated with sex crimes after the second one. So can you see a lot of the Farage...
Well, they're not being associated with. They have committed sex crimes.
Well, they have one, yeah. But what I'm saying is the only two we talk about are bad people. Why aren't we having a conversation about the others?
Well, we have this very 45 minutes that I've been on air. We've said... It is a matter of public safety if any prisoner is released. We've said that twice, 3 times at different points in the past 45 minutes, David. And if this person is an asylum seeker. If we don't know, I'm going to report that. I think it's important to do so. It's not finger pointing at good people like you or anybody else. It's actually asking about how our systems are working. Because let's not forget, this is a mistaken release. The guy didn't escape. He didn't try and scrabble away from prison. It's not his mistake. Whatever kind of person he is, it's not his mistake. It's about our systems, and that includes potentially the asylum system as well as the justice system.